The Commission for the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities, known as the CRL Rights Commission, is deeply concerned about the unprecedented prevailing conflict that has devastated some parts of South Africa. The Commission says that it condemns the unfortunate activities that we have witnessed, which is creating discomfort to the cultural, the religious and linguistic communities. Joining us now is Professor David Mosoma, the Chairperson of the CRL Rights Commission. Prof, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the Globe.
And good evening to you and your viewers.
Indeed, it's a great pleasure having you join us this evening, Prof. Now, the CRL Commission says in its statement, the building blocks of the ideal rainbow nation are under attack. What are these building blocks, Professor, and how do we strengthen them?
The building blocks of the rainbow nation are what I call the supremacy principle of love, of friendship, of humanity, of tolerance, which are the cardinal principles enshrined also in the Constitution, because it is in upholding these values that they will hold us together like a glue so that we become a cohesive and united in our diversity. Mm-hmm. And we believe that these devastating unrest and destruction of property for properties have in fact threatened our democracy, at the heart of our democracy. And it has also affected the way in which we are supposed to live in harmony, because it pits one group against the other. As you have seen in Phoenix and other places, people now are fighting among themselves because these values seems to have been eroded. We need to make sure that we cultivate so that people embody these as a character of life, so to speak.
And how much of a setback has this rioting, the looting and the conflict of the past few weeks been for the vision of a rainbow nation, as it were?
Well, I think it's, as I said, it's devastating, it's unbelievable. In fact, no one ever countenanced that this would ever happen in our new democracy.
Yeah.
However, it has happened, and these values are now under threat. What we need to do is to begin to educate each other. I think maybe we took for granted that at the beginning of the inception of democracy, people would understand what it means to live under a constitutional democracy. But now we realize people don't understand that. So education is a key to liberating ourselves from the ignorance of violating the very cardinal principles we have agreed upon together, yeah, and which have become what we call our social contract as a people.
And the Commission, Professor, says it is aware that there's been efforts to fan the racial conflicts as we have witnessed in Phoenix, in Durban, as well as in other communities. Can you be at liberty to pinpoint who has been stoking these racial conflicts and what their intention is?
In fact, we are not able to see this. The reason for our conjecture, or maybe surmise, is the fact that you saw throngs of people moving into property, deliberately unafraid, simply picking up what they think they would like to have. And that could suggest some kind of organized way, but we have no way of telling that. Some argue that this is because of poverty, it's because of unemployment, it is because of sluggish economy. These and more gets to be opinionated. But we need as a people to understand what has gone wrong, mm-hmm, so that we can, at the end of the day, be able to prescribe the right medicine which will solve the problem and have a sustainable society in our country.
And having said that, Professor, I'm actually glad you raised that point. How does South Africa as a society pull itself out of this dark hole it has dug for itself? I mean, do we see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Yes, indeed. We have done that before. this is not the first traversing area. We've been under the grinding system of apartheid. We've been able to make it as a people. And I think it summons our resolve and commitment as a people to say, we can't throw the baby with the bathwater. Let's identify the key differences, because in our act as a constitutional body, we are mandated to bring about peace. And peace means that people sit together and find ways of addressing the intractable problems facing them through debate, through engagement, through whatever means, but those should be peaceful means by all means.
There seems to be a need for a national plan to sort of coordinate the efforts of cultural, religious and the linguistic communities to foster the growth of nation building. What do you think about this? I mean, is the government doing anything like this?
In fact, it lies in the plate of the CRL.
Yeah.
But as you know, it is important that we do these things jointly. Collaboration is a key principle here. We should not do our things in silos. But I think for the most part, like you have seen in Phoenix, the minister was there dealing with the issues of trying to deal with conflict. But it is important that some of these Chapter 9 institutions must be brought to bear, because it's part of the effort of uniting the country, of dealing with these intractable issues. So when we deal with matters in silos, this is what normally comes about, because we don't use our resources to the fullest extent, so to speak.
Communities need to be mindful of the rights of others, I mean, to live peacefully and coexist with each other while in the same vein exercising their own rights. So how much of a delicate balance does this require? Because it's been tested quite severely, hasn't it?
It is. Because I think one of the key elements is that we need to remind people that when we talk about rights, rights are not obsolete.
Yes.
And the rights are tempered by the rights of others. The fact that this is your right, it does not mean that that cannot violate the rights of others. So we need to have this balancing act to be able to say, I should not, simply because I feel it's right, it might in a way offend or be in violation of the right of other people. So this balancing act is what we call tolerance, coexistence. We mind, because we are not alone. We live side by side with others. It is this that will help us to become not only united in our diversity, but you see the tapestry of our strength as a nation.
Okay, great point there. And what do you make then of the fact that communities have already taken steps towards protecting and rebuilding that which is left out of the destruction as witnessed through the media?
And this is a plus. In fact, the communities are commendable. We applaud them, because it's identifying the fact that communities have the strength and the power which they can contribute to the whole as a nation. So we need to summon the strength of our communities, because if we did not have this, I can tell you this country will be on fire. But we need to be grateful for the resilience and the resolve of communities to say, not in our name. We can't allow this country to go on flame. And that this, I think, is something very commendable indeed.
But then can we divorce the economic impact of coronavirus and, the sluggish growth of our economy, divorce it from the political, machinations that have been going on? There's so much political differences within the ruling party, perhaps, that some believe have actually led to the escalation of the violence.
I think what we need to do is that in our communities, we need to have men and women of practical wisdom. Men and women who are able to lead communities. Because part of the problem is the vacuum of leadership in the community itself. So if you have you understand that power only resides with political structures, devoid of communities, you have a problem. Because we have farmed out powers in terms of understanding politics as the place where power must be. Power is resident in communities. And it is when we summon all of these powers, academic, traditional, business, all of these together, then we are able to build something sustainable for this country. And of course, even that economy cannot succeed until we understand the contribution of education. To what extent is education contributing to what we have today? Because if we have young men and young women who qualify in universities, but with only certificate, and they cannot create employment for themselves and others, who is going to create employment? Because government only creates conditions for employment to be there, but government does not employ everybody. You will need institutions which graduate young men and young women who are ready to become entrepreneurs so that they can contribute to the development and building of the economy. Until we have a mindset of that kind, we'll only contribute to creating a statistics of unemployed throughout the country.
Professor, I suppose that we are only, diagnosing the problem, and we are very thin on solutions. I mean, we're not being solutionist in our approach to solving the social, the political, and the economic ills that citizens of the country face. I mean, you rightly mentioned that the power rests in the communities and in the residents and the citizens themselves. So am I correct to say that the citizens did exercise their power and show the government that, enough is enough, because they've exhausted all the other avenues of raising these issues with their councillors, with their political representatives, and taking to the streets, and nothing is happening, and they're still impoverished with no jobs, and they're taking the power to show the government that the only other available avenue is to take the law into their own hands?
I think we must understand that unless we work together, there is no one single person or single group that can come with a solution. And the solution here is system-oriented. If you want to replace the old system, the only way to do it is to have a new system. You can't allow an old system to give you the benefits of the new. So this is the challenge. If we are dealing with apartheid as an old system, what replaces apartheid must be a better system that serves the interests of all. And this can only happen if we work together and find that solution. It can't be one group. Government can't do it alone. The civil society, business, private environment, all of us, educationists, must come together and provide that solution, because it is in the best interest of all of us to have that solution provided for.
Professor David Mosoma, lovely chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights of this matter.